The Fellowship of the Ring opens not with grand conflict, but with a party. The Shire, Tolkien's imagined rural paradise, is a land untouched by empire, by industrialization or by war. Its people, the hobbits, are content with the simple pleasures of food, gardening, birthdays and pipe smoking. They do not hunger for power, nor do they seek to understand the wide world beyond their borders. In this opening, Tolkien doesn't give us suspense. He gives us stability. The early chapters of the Fellowship unfold slowly, luxuriating in the rhythms of the Shire. Bilbo Baggins, now aged and eccentric after his adventures, plans an extravagant celebration for his 71st birthday. It's a scene of levity, fireworks from the old wizard Gandalf, children dancing, tables groaning with food. There's gossip and spectacle, a sense of exaggerated, almost comedic cheer. But something is amiss. Bilbo is weary of his own comfort. He mutters about being thin and stretched, haunted not by some outward threat, but a growing unease in his own heart. When Bilbo makes his dramatic exit, slipping on the One Ring and vanishing before the eyes of his guests, the tone begins to shift. What had been a story of party planning becomes a meditation on detachment and decay. Gandalf grows suspicious. Bilbo resists giving up the ring. Their quiet argument in Bag End reveals how the ring has eroded his will. His reluctance is not melodramatic, it's chillingly familiar. We watch a good man grow possessive, resentful, and irrational. Tolkien never overstates this, but the underlying message is clear. Even the most peaceful places can harbor danger when corrupted by power unexamined. This opening is more than just backstory, it's a microcosm of Tolkien's entire mythology. The Shire is the world before the fall, a pastoral ideal, serene and self-sufficient. But just like the two trees of Valinor, or Numenor before its decline, this peace cannot last. History will catch up, the past will come knocking. What Tolkien does so masterfully is show us the first ripple before the flood. We sense that the time of simplicity is ending, that the very qualities which make the Shire precious also make it vulnerable. When Gandalf leaves Frodo in charge of the ring and sets off to investigate, we are left not with the promise of adventure, but with a lingering fear that something ancient has begun to stir, and that no corner of the world, however remote, will be spared. The Shire itself is more than just a setting. It is Tolkien's deliberate act of myth-making, a constructed pastoral space designed to evoke a world of sanctified simplicity. It is a place where the seasons arrive on time, where people know one another's birthdays and where the most controversial news might be the odd behavior of a neighbor or the appearance of a stranger. The Shire exists almost outside of history, or rather in a history that moves so slowly it becomes indistinguishable from timelessness. This is no accident. Tolkien knew all too well the cost of modernity, mechanized warfare, industrial devastation, and spiritual alienation. In this context, the Shire becomes not merely charming, but morally charged. It represents a counterpoint to the modern world. The hobbits themselves are creatures of habit, they fear adventures. They are not warriors, nor philosophers, nor empire builders. Their political system is so loose as to be nearly non-existent, a thane in name only, a few scattered sheriffs, and a general consensus that things are better when left alone. They do not write epics or sing songs of conquest. They keep recipes and family trees. Some critics have read this as Tolkien's defense of a pre-modern agrarian society, and it's true that Tolkien deeply admired the quiet heroism of the countryside. But the Shire is not presented as utopia. It is beautiful, yes, but its beauty comes from its fragility, from the fact that it cannot last. Its virtues are born of limitations. It arises because the world ignores it, and when the world no longer does, the hobbits will be tested in ways they never imagined. Even in its most idyllic moments, the Shire contains a seed of unease. There is a stubbornness to hobbit life, a resistance to the new. They dismiss other cultures as odd, foreign or dangerous. They are not cruel, they are willfully ignorant. Their innocence is partly maintained by a refusal to look beyond their borders. This is a form of protection, but also blindness. The Shire may exist only in Middle-earth, but its soul lies in Warwickshire. Tolkien's vision of hobbit life was not drawn from abstract imagination alone. It was shaped intimately and lovingly by his childhood in Shire, a small village on the outskirts of Birmingham. Before factories and railways swallowed the countryside, Shire was to a young Tolkien a world of wonder. Slow-moving streams, baking bread, tall grass, and an old mill turning steadily through the seasons. It was, as he would later say, a kind of Eden. That memory never left him. In letters, Tolkien returns again and again to the image of pre-industrial Warwickshire as a lost paradise, a world of rootedness and quiet dignity. He wrote not just to escape the present, but to preserve the past, or at least the memory of a past that felt coherent, comprehensible, and whole. The Shire, then, is not fantasy, it is remembrance, but it is also protest. In many ways the Shire mirrors Edwardian England, geographically, yes, with its rolling hills and thatched roof villages, but more importantly, ideologically, it resists its location and it resists speed. The Shire is Tolkien's act of cultural resistance, a conservative utopia in the truest sense of the word, not political conservatism, but conservation. It is a place where time stands still, and values remain anchored, and yet it is not frozen. The Shire lives through names, customs, food, gossip, and seasonal rituals. Tolkien imbues the Shire with linguistic texture, the Hobbit calendar with its precise reckoning of days, the delightfully English names like Baggins and Cotton, the oral traditions passed down through families. All are crafted with care to give the Shire not just depth but authenticity. It feels real because it reflects something real, the lived culture of rural England, both parodied and cherished. Tolkien's linguistic worldbuilding is not window dressing. It is philosophy in miniature. Every term, every joke, every odd custom in the Shire is part of a deeper conviction that language carries memory and memory anchors meaning. The Shire is small in scope, but large in resonance because it remembers itself, something the wider world of Middle-earth increasingly struggles to do. Thus the Shire becomes mythic not by being epic, but by being intimate. It is a place where the extraordinary hides beneath the ordinary, where a garden is a form of worship, and where a pipe and a pint are acts of preservation. It is what Tolkien mourns, what he loved, and what, through his stories, he tried to save. After Bilbo's dramatic disappearance, the story could have surged forward with action and urgency, but Tolkien makes a different choice. Instead of racing towards peril, the narrative slows. The stakes do not rise to spectacle, but to the quiet deepening of knowledge. The Shire seems unchanged, but something dark has begun to move beneath its surface. And so, over the course of many years, a detail often collapses in adaptations. Gandalf the Grey begins to ask questions. Gandalf's investigation into the ring is methodical. He revisits the forgotten account of Isildur, the man who first claimed the ring and failed to destroy it. Layer by layer, what had once seemed a curious relic is revealed to be something far more terrible. Not a gift but a burden, a fragment of a dark will that refused to die. This culminates in the fire test, when Gandalf throws the ring into a hearth and reveals the black speech of Mordor, a language of domination, etched into the very metal now glowing with terrible clarity. It's a turning point not only in the story, but in tone. The cozy, firelit world of Frodo Baggins collapses under the weight of myth and memory. The narrative, only now grounded in comfort and routine, opens the door to the vast, terrifying history of Middle-earth. And crucially, Frodo does not arrive at this knowledge on his own. He is not a chosen hero, nor a curious scholar. He is told, slowly, patiently, and with great reluctance, that he has inherited something dangerous. His journey does not begin with ambition, but revelation. He is, in a real sense, awakened by others to a truth he would rather not know. This marks Frodo's entry into the larger mythic tradition that undergirds the Lord of the Rings. He is not simply a protagonist, he is a successor. The ring has passed from Sauron to Isildur, to Gollum, to Bilbo, and now to Frodo. Each bearer is part of a chain, but Frodo alone will be asked to break it. And so we are presented with one of Tolkien's most quietly tragic themes, the idea of inheritance not as honor but as burden. Frodo is not ennobled by receiving the ring, he is diminished, haunted and eventually broken by it. The gift is poisoned, the treasure is cursed, and the hero is, from the beginning, wounded. The very act of accepting the ring marks the beginning of Frodo's erosion. Though he carries it willingly, it is never truly his. It possesses rather than belongs, and unlike wealth or land which can be enjoyed or shared, this inheritance must be borne. It is an object without joy, a legacy that demands self-destruction in order to be resolved. This seems to be a metaphor for intergenerational trauma. The ring is not just an evil talisman, it is history in its most dangerous form. Unresolved, repressed and still active. It passes forwards, not backwards. Frodo is not merely a young hobbit with a heavy task. He is the repository of his elders' failure. He must succeed where Isildur failed, where Gollum succumbed, and where Bilbo began to fray. Tolkien's world is full of such inheritances, kingdoms shattered, swords broken, and promises unkept. Frodo's story is not unique in this regard, but it's the most personal. His burden is not epic in scale, at least not yet. It is quiet, creeping, and domestic. The ring lies in an envelope, in a locked drawer, in the most comfortable house in Hobbiton, and yet it weighs more than any crown in Middle-earth. The One Ring is not just an artifact of power, it is a mirror. It does not simply grant strength or command armies, it seduces. It studies its bearer, waits, and then offers exactly what they long for most. For Frodo, the ring does not whisper promises of conquest or majesty. It does not tempt him with a throne of Gondor or a crown of flame. Its whispers is more subtle, more intimate. You could be safe. You could control danger. You could make it all go away. In this way, the ring becomes a test uniquely suited for each soul it touches. Frodo hears the faint echo of peace, the desperate yearning to preserve the Shire, to hold still a world already collapsing around him. So literally, the ring functions as a symbol of moral inheritance, the inescapable confrontation with both historical and personal darkness. Frodo's war is internal. He must carry the source of corruption within him, and resist it moment by moment, breath by breath. Here Tolkien's Catholicism deepens the theme. Frodo does not overcome temptation through dominance, but through endurance. Not by casting the ring away in a dramatic flourish, but by carrying it further than anyone else could, even when it wounds him. The moral courage at the heart of the Lord of Rings is not triumph, but perseverance. He does not want this quest, and he is not equipped for it, but still he accepts it. He carries the ring because no one else will, and because the road has to start somewhere, and that is enough. But guiding Frodo from the edge of innocence to the path of purpose is Gandalf, not a commander, but a mentor, not a hero, but a witness. Gandalf does not force Frodo's hand, he does not seize the ring, though he could. He does not march ahead of him into danger, instead he illuminates the truth, carefully and gravely. In Gandalf we find a character of immense strength, who chooses restraint. He is a Maya, a being of divine origin, capable of awe and fire. Yet he fears the ring, not because he doubts his strength, but because he knows his desire to do good would be corrupted into tyranny. Do not tempt me, he warns. I would use this ring for a desire to do good, but true it would wield a power too great and terrible to imagine. Gandalf serves as Frodo's first glimpse of a wider world. A world shaped by ancient battles, silent struggles and moral complexities, far beyond the Shire gardens. And those gardens Frodo calls home. For Frodo, home is the essence of what must be protected. He adores it, but that love is what forces him to go. And to truly serve the thing you love, sometimes you must leave it. This inner conflict is not unique to Frodo. It echoes throughout Tolkien's Legendarium. Again and again his characters are confronted by the pull of two competing forces. The hearth and the horned call, the familiar and the frightening, the life they know and the task they cannot ignore. Frodo, like many before him, voices his tension plainly. I wish it need not have happened in my time. There's no grandeur in this lament, no false bravery, just honesty. The kind of honesty that comes from someone who understands what they stand to lose. Frodo's journey is not marked by a single grand decision, but by many small resignations. One step away from the fire, then another, each one moving farther from his familiar world, and deeper into the world's pain. The decision to leave the Shire in many ways is the most important action Frodo ever takes. Not because it is heroic, but because it is heartbreakingly human. He does not leave to destroy the ring, not yet. He does not imagine Mount Doom or the Eye of Sauron. His goal is relatively simple, to carry the danger away from the place he loves. Like a man walking a burning ember away from his child's crib. He leaves because he sees what could happen if he stays. This is a paradox Tolkien returns to again and again. The ones who love peace the most are often the ones who must give it up. Preservation requires cost, and the greatest cost is often borne by those who ask for nothing in return. Frodo's quiet heroism is this. He accepts a burden that will wound him in order to shield others. He makes no promise of victory, only of effort. And this, Tolkien suggests, is the heart of all meaningful sacrifice, the choice to suffer for the sake of something beautiful and fragile, to walk away from the garden in order to ensure it blooms again. This emotional geometry of home as both a haven and something to leave mirrors Tolkien's own early life, particularly during the First World War. As a young man, he stepped from the cloistered halls of Oxford, full of scholarship and companionship, into the hellscape of the Western Front. It was for him the shattering of a world. The safety of the familiar was not only left behind, it was burned away. In his letters, Tolkien often reflected the pain of that rupture, not just in terms of geography, but of innocence. Like Frodo, he did not go to war seeking glory or vengeance. He went because he believed he had to. He felt deeply, spiritually, that the England of green fields, modest customs and shared stories was worth defending. When Frodo learns the truth about the ring and prepares to leave the Shire in secret, he attempts to shoulder the burden quietly, shielding those he loves. But Samwise Gamgee, his gardener, his companion, his quiet shadow, has been listening. When caught, Sam isn't scolded, he's commissioned, a faux punishment to accompany his friend into danger. Sam is joined soon after by Merry and Pippin, who uncover Frodo's plans on their own and confront him not with protest but with bags packed. Their loyalty is not rooted in duty or oaths, it's rooted in years of shared stories, laughter and meals. The quiet rhythms of friendship that are now stirred by the winds of danger. There is no formal assembly, no grand speech, no promise of glory. Just a few hobbits trudging across the fields, making light of things they do not yet understand. They walk through forests and over fences, cracking jokes and sharing apples, and nervously discussing legends that they never thought real. And yet danger stalks them from the very beginning. The Black Riders, Nazgul, are near, shadows lengthen on the roads, but the tone remains tender, even playful. The world may be changing, but affections are not. They walk not because they know where the road leads, but because they refuse to let one of their own walk it alone. Tolkien once described hobbits as a reflection of the English country gentleman and peasant, but that phrase, modern as it may be, carries a great emotional weight, because behind it lies something more personal and more sorrowful. Sam, Merry and Pippin are not just rusty caricatures of comic relief, they are echoes of the young man Tolkien loved and lost. In his letters, Tolkien admitted as much. My Samwise, he wrote, is indeed a reflection of the English soldier, of the privates and batmen I knew in the 1940 war, and recognized as so far superior to myself. It's a rare moment of emotional transparency from a man who rarely overstated anything. In Sam and in the other hobbits, Tolkien gave voice to the humble heroism he saw in the trenches, the kind of courage that doesn't boast, that doesn't know it's courage at all. These hobbits, with their laughter and their loyalty, their fussing over mushrooms and meals, are not grand warriors, they are ordinary lads. There is something unbearably tender in the camaraderie, especially when read in the shadow of Tolkien's past. The war robbed him of nearly all his closest friends. The TCBS, a small circle of artists, poets and dreamers he cherished, was shattered by the mud and gunfire of the Somme. Their hopes, their laughter, the shared vision of a world full of beauty and purpose was buried in no man's land. And yet, in Frodo, Sam, Merry and Pippin, some of that laughter survives. Some of the world, however briefly, is restored. Tolkien does not forget what was lost, but he honors it. To these small, barefoot figures who carry, unknowingly, the emotional residue of a generation gone too soon. Tolkien shows us that evil doesn't always come as a trumpet blast. Sometimes it comes as absence. Absence of courage, absence of friendship, of memory. And so he writes a world where those fragile things are defended not by perfect people, but by vulnerable ones. Because Tolkien does not give us fantasy to flee the world, he gives us a myth to better understand it. A story to remind us that the small can be mighty, that simplicity is not weakness, and that even in the darkest hour, hope may be carried by the least likely, the least prepared, and in the end, the most enduring.